Alright, how's it going, everyone? Hope you're having a good day so far wherever you are. I decided to make another video, and I think this truly will be the last and final video, at least in this particular series. I meditated for a little bit after the last video, and I had some more ideas come to me while using some of the techniques that I discussed in the video. And then I decided to go for a walk after that and mull over and digest some of the ideas that I got while I was meditating. And this video is only, judging by candles, maybe an hour and a half after the last one. Went for a walk utilizing some of those techniques and meditating on them, and had more ideas come. So I came back home to take notes, because I don't typically bring my phone with me when I go for a walk. So I didn't have anything to take notes on, and I was getting so many that I didn't want to hold them in my head. You know, I like to be present. So I decided to come home, and now I've got about 3 or 4 index cards worth of notes on more practical uses for this stuff, as opposed to just internal development and astral augmentation, so to speak. I want to discuss also some more practical ways that you can connect with this energy, or perhaps any other energies that you might summon with a process like this, or a similar process if you decide to use it as a template. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this. The first thing that I want to discuss is the energy, or the fire of it all. This is very windy, intellectual, and very watery, imaginative. So it's important to balance this with fire, the energy of it, and the why and the passion and the reason of it, but also the earth of it as well, making it practical. So the energy of it all is very important. If you decide to put some type of windy force in front of you, if you decide to keep the wind in the front of the circle and earth at the left, and water behind you and fire to the right, then, there's an alchemical reasoning behind, relating to qualities and modes and things. If you decide to put that lofty, windy, winged element in the east, and you start at the front of your circle when you're doing your invocation or evocation, one of the first things that will happen energetically is that you will bring your awareness to the back, which is important in today's day and age, because I know a lot of you have tended to carry a lot of tension in your chest. So the first thing that this does is it brings your proprioception and your energy awareness to your back, and this is very balancing. The next thing is if I go counterclockwise, go whatever way you want. And that means for me, there is an earthy element, which they tend to have horns. So if you then bring your awareness to where horns would be, it's another act of proprioception outward, and it's spreading the energy out. And what it's also doing is it's creating a cycle. It's creating a swirl and a circulation. Then if you go into water and you use something like Scorpio, or something with like a fish's tail, you are coming down, you're bringing the energy down, right? And that's further balancing it. Then the way that I will tend to do it is the last energy is I will be more human until this last point. So I will first grow wings, so to speak, and then I will grow horns. and then I will grow the tail. So I'm still human, psychologically, energetically, whatever, astrally. The last point, if you invoke something like in the fire region, what this does is it acknowledges the full circuit of the fire, but you can also use it to encompass the wholeness of your energy. So if you chose something fiery like Draco to be there, which is not what I chose, but if you did, then you could cover your whole self in scales at this point, like a dragon. And what this does, it gives you the identity of armor and resilience, but it also spreads and equalizes that energy all the way out, right? So this is very practical, very useful. Now, I do realize that I talked about not invoking all of these aspects. It could be too much. And that is the case. Remember that there is degree and depth. There's a flash quick imagining it for a few seconds, and there's going about doing it every single moment of your daily life. Okay, so find your own balance. I don't know where you are. That's one of the things about this channel, is there are depths and degrees to this channel, and beginners end up here, and what I would consider to be adepts end up here, and so I have to keep the information relatively general. So do with this what is within your capacity, okay? Another thing is keeping in mind the practicality of what's going on with how you create your, I don't know if you would call it a cosmogony, but how you create your circle. Let's call it that for now. For instance, if you do place Hydra beneath you, if you choose to use like a 7-point system or a 3-point system, and Hydra is beneath you, that's very evocative of the Qliphoth. That's very evocative of Thamael. It's very evocative of the chaos that goes on in the underworld sometimes. And so, one, it's representative of it, but two, then also you can call to the single star. If you are using like Al-Farid or Al-Farud, however you want to describe that, then you can culminate that chaos or coalesce that chaos. Yeah, so keep the practicality in mind, and keep in mind, again, this is something of an initiatory system at your own pace and your own judgment, because these energies can build up and chemical reactions can occur. Another thing is like feeling like if you're too weak or too multifaceted, the aspect of Hydra works really well for that. Too weak as in like you can come back again. You have, cut one head off, 2 more grow back. That is the nature of the resilient will, as well as other things. But if you're also feeling too multifaceted, like I said, that Tamael aspect in the Qliphoth, like you can culminate and coalesce that chaos. And so the last thing I will say in regard to like things like that, being more like breaking the fourth wall about it. Actually, this whole video is going to break the fourth wall on things like that. But one thing that you can also do that's more like on the nose is to give this aspect or this mode a name. Be careful, because I understand some people argue that I'm out here teaching delusion and dissociation. I have to assume that you are going to handle your own shit. Okay? So I'm moving on from that. Giving this thing a name, that can happen via inspiration. It can happen via glossolalia and talking in tongues. It can happen synchronistically. It can happen via casting runes. It can happen, like some people name their servitors with like the rosy cross lamen or layman. They draw sigils based on the elemental aspects and qualities and components of the thing. It can be beneficial. especially because you can imprint further intention, and it can also be used like an incantation. It can also help to keep it separate from your daily, regular, physical life. I don't want to say mundane life. Hopefully none of you are having a mundane life out there. Hopefully life is perfectly magical for all of you. Okay, looks like I've still got another half an hour before I have to move on to an appointment. So, which one do I want to cover first? We will get into these. So, one of the ways that you can engage with and empower this practice is to, like I said, you can use it like a god form or like an aura of some kind. Project that on you, or project fragments of it on you at certain times. So if you're feeling like you're too in the clouds, I mean, the horns are perfect, one, because it addresses the head, but two, also it represents a lot of the earth animals, Taurus, Capricorn, etc. But if you invoke these things, also, not just in circumstances when you want to imbue yourself or augment yourself with their qualities to propel and enhance you and assist you, but to invoke them first and then invoke challenge. To go out and do things while wearing them, so to speak, or after having conjured them. So doing it first as opposed to waiting until you feel it's necessary. Another thing is to spend time with objects from the animal or the animals. To get to know what the texture of them feels like. This is a huge tip, proprioceptively, etherically, but also for the earth of it as well. Well, I guess that's not really the earth, it's still the feeling of it. Knowing what scales feel like, knowing what fur feels like, and being able to conjure it at a moment's notice is quite frankly, it's kind of a hack. It's a cheat. Another thing that one can do is, once one gets objects from the animal, one can breathe into them or inhale air from them. Now, be careful, because anthrax is a thing. Diseases are a thing, like avian flus and things like that. Again, I have to assume you're going to take care of yourself and take care of your own shit. You can mix some of your blood or saliva or whatever, and either put a drop of it on the bone or saturate the bones with it. Some, people might want to, like, if you have a certain animal that you sacrifice, like a chicken or something like that, and you have one of their bones, you might, saturate the blood in that bone, or the skull in that blood, whatever it is, and you can perhaps mix some of your blood with it. Obviously, again, some animals have parasites and things, so watch mixing your blood internally. I meant more mixing externally. Yes, you can put a drop of your blood on the skull, you can put a drop of blood on the inside of the pelt on the leather, or drops of blood. You can blood a sigil. We'll get into that later. It's kind of tangential to another thing that I'll get into later. But yes, like, I have a skull that is just the top half, so it's relatively flat and it fits over my face. So I can breathe in from it and I can breathe into it. You get it. And I also have a pelt of that same animal that I can wear over my face and breathe into and breathe from. I can especially do both, or I can set them both on my altar. You get the idea. But spending time with the objects from the animal, or spending time with the animal, studying them, how they move, how they sound, acting like them, calling like them, this does things vibrationally to the DNA from what I can tell. And it's just watch what happens. But spending time with correspondences associated with them, like I mentioned, the stars, but also herbs and stones, locations, things like that. You can also do rituals during certain periods of time, like there are periods of certain cultures' calendars, like the Year of the Dragon, Year of the Dog, Year of the Rabbit, etc. There are certain moons, like the Sturgeon moon, etc. And you can do rituals and ceremonies during these periods of time, or you can do commemorative ceremonies, sacrifices, offerings, things like that. But yeah, watching them, see how they feed, feeding on them, depending on what the animal is, adopting them or hunting them, yeah, etc., etc. Something else started to come to mind, but it's, again, kind of tangential. Obviously, bones, fossils, eggs, things like that. Other things that you can do are things like sleeping with like a pelt blanket of the animal, or underneath a pillow. You can use ritual entheogens and project and act out being like that being. You can call on it as an opponent or an adversary, as opposed to an ally, and devour its aspects, or, you know, reap its aspects. You can obviously get tattoos of the animal or of the animals or chimera, or once you have invoked the force, you can enchant something like ink that you have made, and you can just infuse yourself with that force that you know what I mean, if invoked into the material. That is effective as well. Oils that are from the animal, like actual, or like wolf oil that comes from the muscles and the, not the membranes, the, like, the glands and things. Yes, thank you. Face paint, things like that. Something else that comes to mind that I've done for other reasons that I now realize to some of you may seem a little bit kinky, but you can enchant a candle and have herbs, correspondence, carve into it, sigil, whatever, and you can drip the wax onto you and absorb the heat. Obviously, be careful. It's the last time I'm going to fucking say that. Be careful. Or don't. It's not up to me to tell you what to do, right? But at least be aware and be conscious. What else can we do? Where was I? Tattoos, oil, face paint, wax melt, LOL. Yes. Making pacts with this entity, or even going as far as to, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I assume most of you assume that, like, evoking the force and making a pact with it, but going as far as having penalties and pre-ascribed penalties at that. That makes it even a little bit more Kofian, a little bit more lunar, a little bit more back of the head, because it's sort of already washed into the wishing well, so to speak. Yeah, pacts with penalties that are pre-sanctioned on the pelt as well. Yes, that's right. You can have the pact. That's what I was mentioning earlier that was tangential. Having the pelt, turning it over, or if it doesn't have fur on it, and either writing, or there's like leather tools that you can tool the leather with, and having the contract or the pact there. And you can even go as far as having the penalties on the pact as well. Go as far with this as you want. Yeah. you can enter into the form, the chimera, and scry or create some sort of symbol, and then carve that symbol into something meaningful that is related to the animal, like one of their bones or a stone related to it, and wear that thing on some sort of pendant, right? Or perhaps some sort of, jewelry of some kind. Looks like I've got about 20 minutes left, 20 or 25. All right, so enter the form and scry a symbol, yes, and then make a talisman to wear or an amulet. Doing a ceremony each moon or each year to commemorate it. I think I mentioned that one. What does this say? It's very small writing. Yes, or every season. Lucid dreaming and dream yoga, offerings and sacrifices. Yeah, try some of these things. Try some of these things and watch what happens. See what happens. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. And I guess closing statement, some of you are going to ask, like, when do I do this? Where do I do this? Like, where does this fit in with my rituals? Does it go between LBRP and, the hexagram ritual? Like, put it wherever you want to put it. This might replace ritual and ceremony for some of you. This might begin ritual and ceremony. This might be a quick way to rise on the plains. This might be a quick way, perhaps during the analysis of the keyword, if you have chosen animals that are relevant to, Isis, Apophis, and Osiris, perhaps you can merge these into a chimera at that point. Perhaps this is part of what Crowley was talking about when he said to Omega Therion, or to Omega Therion, whatever, the beast, but that's also related to lupus in a lot of places. The wolf constellation. You get the idea. My point is that you can make this as relevant as you want. Anyway, that's all. Perhaps check out some of the playlists if you have not already. Feel free to ask any questions, leave suggestions. Feel free to join the Discord. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.